Hey everyone! Today I'll tell you a story about how sister's pride prevents her from taking money from her ex husband but allows her to live off our elderly parents. My sister Alina recently went through a divorce and moved back in with our parents. The tricky part is she refuses to take child support from her ex husband for their child, doesn't work herself, and relies entirely on our retired parents. Alina got married right after finishing college, about 4 years ago. Her future husband courted her very romantically for 2 years, showering her with flowers and expensive gifts almost every day, showing constant signs of affection. He came from a well off family, was handsome, and an overall great match for my sister. After completing her education, Alina found a job, but being a bachelor's degree holder with no experience, she was paid very little. My sister was never career driven, not aspiring for high positions, so she quit her job after a year, stating that she wanted to dedicate herself fully to the family. Her husband was pleased with this decision. He earned a good income and could comfortably provide for the entire family on his own. When Alina found out she was pregnant, her husband gifted her a set of gold jewelry and an expensive latest model phone. Her in laws also showered her with gifts, brought fresh fruits, and arranged for the best prenatal care in the city. My sister and I were never close due to our significant age difference. When I got married and moved thousands of miles away from home, our communication practically ceased. I get updates from my parents, and we talk almost every day. The birth of Alina's son brought immense joy to the family. The child always had the best of everything: expensive toys, fashionable kids' clothes, and they never denied him anything. Alina's husband enjoyed spending time with the child, continued to take care of Alina, and even hired a helper so that she could rest without getting too tired from her responsibilities. Their family bliss lasted for 3 years until Alina found out about her husband's infidelity. After a terrible scandal, she packed her things and went to live with our parents on the same day. Her husband tried to mend the relationship, apologized in every possible way, but she wouldn't forgive him. Eventually, they got divorced. Her husband and his parents promised to continue supporting the child, and he even insisted on providing child support. However, my sister was so offended that she let her pride get in the way and refused everything. They tried to persuade her to accept help, but after a while, I guess they got tired of begging. Now, Alina and her son live with our retired parents. Both parents are pensioners. Dad occasionally works as a guard, and Mom seldom knits something on order, more for pleasure than for earning money. The sister hasn't been working since she quit her job after getting married. Initially, she tried to find a job, went for interviews, but due to lack of experience and being a single parent, she couldn't land a good position with a high salary. She didn't want to work for peanuts, so she decided it was better not to work at all. Consequently, the financial support for Alina and her son entirely fell on the shoulders of our parents. After a few months, I decided to find out when this would end and why she refused to take money from her ex husband. I won't take anything from him. He betrayed me and our child. My sister screamed into the phone when I called her. At least for the sake of your son, take the money. He needs food, clothes. He won't buy those himself, I suggested. I'll manage on my own. I don't need his money, Alina declared. Deal with it then. No one is against that. Just stop living off our parents. Look, your pride won't let you take money from your ex-husband, but it allows you to depend on two pensioners. My sister didn't want to continue the conversation and hung up. Right after that, my mom called me. Why are you pressuring her? She's already upset because of the divorce, and you're making it worse. Let them live with us. Let them live with us. We have enough money for everything, my mom said. Mom, she'll eventually have conflicts with the father of the child and his family, and then she'll regret it for the rest of her life. The son won't thank her for this. Be smarter. Talk to them yourself. If she doesn't want him to pay child support, let them pay you instead. You'll spend their money on the child and Alina anyway. His parents are intelligent people. They'll understand. My mom promised to consider my words, discuss everything with Dad, and reach out to the ex-husband's parents. I hope they can peacefully resolve everything, and Alina will finally forgive her husband, leading to a reconciliation. Story about how to become the enemy of your entire family in 5 minutes. Just stop being convenient for them. Just recently, I discovered this truth, this Zen, after having a quarrel with my own brother. The reason, quite simple. I got tired of being the free babysitter for his children and his wife. A brief background. My hometown is Ulyanovsk, where I grew up and lived until I finished school. However, I decided to build my future life in Samara. After finishing college, I found a decent job, so there was no reason to stay here at all. Of course, I visited Ulyanovsk. My family visited me, but these trips became especially beloved by my brother's family. Not that I'm not hospitable, not at all. I didn't mind their visits. Together we went to parks, movies, and other recreational places. I showed them the city and they shared everything happening in Ulyanovsk. Initially, when the nieces and nephews were little, their parents took care of them. But as they grew older, my brother started coming in full force. And here is where it gets interesting. I won't beat around the bush and get straight to the point. The fact that a one-bedroom apartment cannot accommodate a large number of people is, I think, quite understandable. They managed to fit somehow. My brother and his wife spent the night in the kitchen, squeezing onto a folding sofa, and the kids on an inflatable mattress in the same room with me. Taking days off every time they visited was not always possible, so every morning when I went to work, it involved unprecedented acrobatic tricks. Having breakfast wasn't always possible. It's inconvenient to wake people up with the noise of plates and forks. On my well-deserved day off, like many, I preferred to sleep in, but during the visits of my relatives, it was simply impossible. Why, you can easily guess, making noise with dishes, turning the TV on at full volume, yelling at the kids. According to them, it seems perfectly normal. The older nephew is 7 years old now. The younger one is 4. Not the most pleasant age, I confess to you. The formation of character, emotional outbursts, capriciousness, those joys were fully experienced by me. Somehow, I had little to no experience in dealing with children until that point. Did that stop my brother from entrusting me with the leisure of his children? Not at all. Well, they'll get tired as soon as we leave the house. We won't be long, honestly. We'll quickly walk with Anya and come back. Will you sit for a while? My brother pleaded, smiling, walking out with his wife. Having experienced all the charm of carefree pastime, my brother apparently decided that this act of generosity had no time limit, as after the first will you sit came the second, and then the third, fourth, and so on in increasing order. What to do as a loving sister, I tried to empathize, but agree one should also have a conscience, right? Maybe I have my own plans. Although, as it turned out, nobody cared about them. They were indifferent to the fact that I also have my own plans. Without caring, they continued to believe that making loud noises with dishes, turning on the TV at full volume, and yelling at the kids was absolutely fine. And during several such trips, I finally decided to refuse my brother. If you come with the kids, please be so kind as to take them with you. I'm not hired to sit with them while you have fun, I said, as bluntly as that. Yes, it was rude, but otherwise personal boundaries could not be established. My brother, apparently stunned by such an unexpected answer, mumbled something indistinct, said he would call back. After an hour, the phone rang again. Everything's fine. Parents will take the kids. I'll come with my wife. In that case, you're welcome. But what a wave of anger overwhelmed me when my brother appeared at the doorstep with his entire family in full force. Sorry, at the last moment, everything went not according to plan. Parents couldn't do it, and I didn't have time to warn. He apologized with a guilty smile. Didn't have time to warn. Several hours of travel, and he didn't have time to warn. Bravo. No one has ever fed me such a long string of lies. Silently gesturing to invite them into the apartment, I started packing the essentials, gave keys to my brother, and left for a friend's place. The phone was constantly ringing with calls and messages, but I didn't answer on principle. After a few days, they left, leaving the keys in the mailbox. That evening, my mother called. What do you allow yourself? Aren't you ashamed? Brother came, and she immediately ran away. What kind of behavior is this? Did I raise you like that? She complained tirelessly. He said he would come with his wife, but in the end, he brought the whole family. Why should I sit with them all day? I tried to justify myself in vain. So what? Is it difficult for you? The kids, you see, bothered her. You should apologize to your brother today, she declared, and hung up. I won't apologize to anyone, of course. Whether I'm to blame here or not is still open for discussion. I didn't deceive him and tried to put him in front of the fact. I didn't leave them at the doorstep or send them back to the station. So what am I guilty of in standing up for my boundaries? Though the story is about how mom rents out the apartment, but all the problems have to be solved by my husband and me because it will be ours later. My mom lives by double standards. Throughout my childhood, I was told that a woman should be independent, that in this life you should rely only on yourself and not expect anything in return. However, now my mom demands help. It's like you cooked the porridge. Now deal with it. Wasn't that what you taught me? But let's take it step by step. When I turned 18, my mom made it clear that no one would support me anymore. So it was time for me to take responsibility for my life. I found a part time job and rented a room. Of course, at first I was very upset because my friends' parents provided for them and weren't as strict. But after a few years, I saw that my friends were so immature and incapable of solving basic household issues that thanked my mom for teaching me these things. And at work, I was progressing well in my career thanks to my character. My mom and I had a good relationship. She treated me as an equal, and I loved that. I was sure that if I faced any difficulties, she would definitely help me. Fortunately, there were no such situations, which I was very grateful for. I think I wanted to prove to my mom that I was independent and didn't depend on her. Our good relationship lasted for 12 years. During this time, I got married, my career was advancing, and my husband and I weren't thinking about having children yet, especially since we wanted to try living in another country. During all this time, we've been living in a rented apartment, and we don't see the point of buying our own place, considering our plans to move. A couple of years ago, my beloved grandmother passed away, leaving her apartment to my mom in her inheritance. My husband was excited, thinking that my mom might suggest we move in. To him, my mom might suggest we move into my grandmother's apartment. However, I wasn't deluding myself with such thoughts. I somehow immediately understood that no one would invite us there. I felt uncomfortable with my husband's parents. My mother in law kept asking if we were moving, and my husband told me that she was puzzled about how we could not offer her children to live in her apartment so they wouldn't wander around other people's corners. I explained to my husband that my mom has her own worldview and she raised me differently, so all these conversations should stop. We are responsible for our lives, and there's no need to expect help from anyone, especially since we are not living on the street. In the end, my mom decided to rent out the apartment. It's worth mentioning that my mom is a pensioner, and this is a good addition to her pension, and she has a lot of time for it. She hesitated for a long time before deciding to start this passive income stream. When she decided to rent out the apartment, the COVID times came, and tenants were found quite quickly. For some time, my mom was very pleased. She didn't do anything but received good money. She regretted none making up her mind about this passive income earlier. However, providing this passive income became my headache. The internet was sometimes bad, and it needed to be reconnected. There was some pipe that burst, and my mom called and asked me and my husband to come and deal with it. In my understanding, if you decide to engage in renting out an apartment, then take care of all the household issues yourself. Why bother me? I suggested to my mom to hire a handyman instead of bothering me and my husband. To which she replied that you have to pay the handyman. Then my mom put me in front of the fact that she bought a washing machine and my husband should come and bring the machine to the apartment. And over half a year, there accumulated a whole bunch of such requests. One day, she called with another request, and I couldn't take it anymore. Listen, I didn't sign up to be your assistant. Why did you decide that I should rush to answer each of your calls to solve issues with your tenants, to deal with household problems? Just because I'm your mom and you're my daughter, you have to help me. My mom replied, "Maybe, first of all, you will pay for the gas that we spend on all these trips." "I didn't think you were so petty, my daughter." "You raised me the way you did," I blurted out. "It's an interesting approach. You take the money from the rent, and I have to solve all your issues for free. I have my own problems, and here's more. If you don't want to pay for repairs, can't solve apartment issues, then don't rent it out. Aren't you ashamed to talk like this to your mother?" "Mom, you want to have your cake and eat it too. My husband and I can help you. Let's agree. Let's agree that you'll give us half of the rent money to cover our gas expenses and deal with all arising problems. Agree?" In response, I heard that she was disappointed in me and didn't think she raised such a greedy and selfish daughter. My mom hung up, and she hasn't called for a month. But no one bothers us with household problems. I think I offered a good option for both parties, and my husband supports me.